Hello everybody, this is September and I'm checking in with an update about Erenor weapons coming in Archeage on the NAEU servers in version 3.5. First off, I want to thank omnomio for pulling together most of the data to make this video possible. They have been doing just an amazing job bringing us NA/EU players information directly from Korea. And I know making these videos and these spreadsheets that is a challenge. So I really appreciate all the work that they're doing. And I will be posting a link to their website here in the video description. So definitely please check them out if you haven't already. All right, so let's get into this. Let's start by defining what an Erenor weapon is. So in 3.5, XL Games is going to be adding a new tier above Aonor called Erenor. These weapons are basically designed to be the in-game weapons, and this is what the community as a whole is supposed to be working towards. Anybody can craft an Erenor weapon. You just need to visit a crafting workbench. And that's going to require this starting mat of a divine Aonor weapon. Additionally, you're going to need a butt ton of Archeum and some miscellaneous mats, some of which actually will not be in until 3.5 comes out. Nevertheless, the folks over there at omnomio have been tracking these changes and provided me with enough info to get started on a spreadsheet so I can bring it to you. Okay, so right up front, it is important to note that regrading Erenor weapons does not follow any of the current rules we may be accustomed to here in NA/EU. Instead, the regrading is done just like it has been done with the cloaks or the underwear. But instead of feeding them Synthium or synthesis shards, you're actually required to start feeding these guys weapons. And not just any weapon, not like the garbage weapons that you can get off the mobs. You actually need to feed them weapons that are either from the dungeons, world bosses, or the crafted type weapons. Furthermore, as you increase the grade of your Erenor weapon, you'll also be required to feed in higher grade weapons. So, for example, if you're going from a grand Erenor to a rare, you're going to have to feed in weapons with a level grade of grand. Grand to rare, use grand. And then, of course, once you get to divine, you're going to have to, and you're trying to go from divine to epic, you're going to have to start feeding in divine grade weapons. Oh boy. But you already have a legendary Aonor weapon, so you're ahead of the curve, right? Nope. No matter what grade of Aonor weapon that you use to craft your Erenor, well, at least in Korea, you're only going to get the basic grade of Erenor in return for your efforts. So if you're one of the lucky people that actually already has like a legendary Aonor, you're probably going to want to hold on to that until you can get an Erenor weapon of similar or better quality. Hell, you actually may end up even using that weapon in your Erenor. We'll talk more on that here in a minute. Okay, so you should kind of have like an idea what an Erenor weapon is and kind of roughly how you go about upgrading one. The folks over at Omnom released a spreadsheet that has been very popular, at least from what I can see. And so what I have done is I have taken that spreadsheet, you all know how much I love spreadsheets, and run some additional numbers, made some tweaks, and made that just, I feel like it's more user-friendly. To that end, what I'm going to do here is talk about the Omnom spreadsheet and then give you guys an overview of my spreadsheet, and that will be available in the video description. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to omnom.io, and I'm going to show you the 3.5 Erenor spreadsheet that they posted. And a quick how-to on how their spreadsheet is working. If we look at the calculation sheet here, what it's actually doing is listing all the values and paths to upgrade your Erenor weapon throughout these different grades. And it's using values from Korea. What I'm going to do is actually use values from our servers, the North American Legacy, Fresh Start, the EU Legacy, and I didn't get values for the EU Fresh Start, but we can post those in. And so what they're doing here in Omnom's sheet, it's not really stated anywhere what this data is kind of representing, but it looks like what they're trying to do is use wooden weapons and then upgrade those to the appropriate level. And some of their terminology is a bit ambiguous. It's not really clear. Like, for example, like sometimes they're saying that they're using a sturdy ingot, but we're talking about wood weapons, which is made clear by the fact that we have lumber. So instead of a sturdy ingot, we should be using fine lumber. Maybe that's what they mean by sturdy ingot, etc. Nevertheless, it is all of the same tier, so those values should be somewhat comparable. Okay, so because I'm trying to keep this video short, I'm not going to completely cover all the nuances of the spreadsheet here at Omnom. Instead, I'd like to talk more about the spreadsheet that I created, and then I'll make references to their spreadsheet so I can kind of point out a couple of the differences between the two. Okay, so here is the spreadsheet that I'm going to be making available to you guys. There's 3 tabs that I want to talk about. The first one is the Overview tab. This is just basic instructions on how to use this spreadsheet and provides a kind of an overview, if you will, of letting people know the purpose of the rest of the tabs. The second tab is the Material Values tab. This is actually a data capture of values that I saw for the crafting components that we're going to be using to either craft the Erenor weapon or regrade it or upgrade it. I was able to get data for, as I said earlier, North America Legacy, North America Fresh Start, EU Legacy, and we also have Korean data, and that was provided by omnom.io. But I didn't actually get the EU Fresh Start, but as you will find out, that is easily filled in by anybody. So anyway, this tab, the Materials tab, is where you would put data values if they happen to change. And we have to assume that they will. Each region has a table, and changing those values in these tables will actually change the data on the rest of the spreadsheets. One thing I need to note here is that the North American Fresh Start server, I actually had a little sub table here because I could not find any information on blazing ingots or the blazing lumber. So I had to do the math. I had to add up all the components. So that's what this little extra table is over here. And remember, sometimes it actually may be cheaper to make your own stuff, like I did here, than pay the prices on the auction house. So again, please feel free to download this spreadsheet and make it your own. Okay, so moving on to the third tab, this is the Upgrade Cost tab, and this is where the magic happens. First, you need to use the drop-down menu at the top here to select your server/region. Once you have done that, you'll see that the values are automatically pulled from the Materials tab. As you can see here, as I change regions, you see that the values are changing or updating. Now that we have that, we can begin to calculate what is the best way, or kind of a lack for a better way to say it, the cheapest way to upgrade your Erenor weapon, giving its current grade. So the first table that you're going to see here, the one with this big green border, this is actually showing the cost to actually craft the Erenor weapon. And what you do is you take a divine Ionad, a heavy dose of Archeum, and a splash of miscellaneous ingredients, and boom, you have a basic grade Erenor for what amounts to be about 80,000 gold. Next, we want to use this data to find the best way to upgrade our Erenor weapon. Remember before I said that you could feed, or you will have to feed in the appropriate grade weapons? Well, this is what that data is all about. So the first grade in Korea is basic. And so to get above that level, it's pretty simple, so we won't talk about that too much. But all you have to do is go to a weapons vendor found in every major city, buy a bunch of artificers weapons, which are relatively cheap. They're like, what, 6 gold each. And then after feeding in 144 of those weapons, which actually is only 832 gold, you'll be at the grand level and ready to use this tab. Okay, now in column A through D, you'll notice the section that I labeled Erenor Grand to Rare. So what this does is it looks at all the various weapons, like levels of weapons like the Artificers, the Conquerors, the Illustrious, and so on, to try to determine the most economical way that you can feed these weapons into your Erenor. So to do this, we look at each little tab or table here in this vertical column, A through D. And then what we're looking for is we're trying to find the best cost per XP, or the total gold cost to go from grand to rare. Obviously, the one with the most lowest cost per XP or the lowest gold cost is going to be the item that we want to use. What's more is the total gold cost will give you a rough idea of how expensive it will be to take the weapon from grand to rare. So if we look through this column here, you can see that the Conqueror Grand appears to be the lowest cost per XP, and that gives us a total gold cost of about 716 gold. This tells us the best way to upgrade our Erenor weapon from grand to rare is to start feeding it a bunch of grand grade Conqueror's weapons. Now before we go to the next upgrade or the next column here, I want to point out some differences between this spreadsheet and the one that a lot of people have probably already seen at omnom.io. First, I didn't use any labor in my calculation. However, Omnom does. They assigned, I think it was like 6 silver and 30 copper to each labor point. I actually didn't feel that was needed. Labor is one of those things that's very subjective in our region, and that's due to people owning or having the ability to own many accounts here in America or in the EU. In Korea, they don't have that luxury. It's 1 per person. Next, in Korea, you can't, let me say that again. Next, in Korea, you cannot actually buy a weapon that is the grand grade from the general vendors. They only sell the basic. So therefore, at the first tier here, they actually have to upgrade the basic to grand to start using it, which then, of course, is the cost that is associated with that, the weapon regrade scroll and the cost to regrade it. On this sheet, I actually used a formula to account for that. So at least here in NA and EU, we can buy the grand grade weapons directly from the merchant. That may change, and if it does, then we can change these values. The formula is already predetermined. Okay, so moving on to rare to arcane upgrade, that is column F through I. So at this point, you need to start feeding in rare grade weapons. Your Erenor weapon is rare, so you have to start using rare grade weapons. Actually, Omnom did a really good, well, a decent job trying to calculate the total scrolls and the cost associated with each one of the regrades. And so I'm just going to follow suit and kind of use their numbers. So at rare to arcane, they accounted for only needing 1 additional scroll. As I do a lot of regrades, I know that going, at least currently, from rare to arcane may actually take a couple shots. But things actually could, we're talking about 3.5, so things could have changed, and for whatever reason, they felt that that was generally a good number to go with, so I'm just going to use it as well. So what we want to do is we want to look down this column F through I, and what we're trying to do is identify the best type of item to use to upgrade our weapon from rare to arcane. And so if we look through all these, we kind of see right away that the Conqueror's rare weapon seems to be it. So this is found by looking at the total XP required to get to the next tier and the XP granted by the said weapon. And if you really want to know the formula is the total cost per weapon divided by the XP per weapon, and that will give you the cost per XP. From there, you just need to multiply that by the cost, multiply the cost per XP by the total XP required, and that will give you the total gold cost. And so as we scroll through this, you'll see at the bottom the actual best cost. What am I saying here? You'll see at the bottom the actual best weapon to use in this case. Is the Jola rare weapon. But those aren't really easy to come by. Those are a drop off of Jola, the world boss there in Exilok. So it's not a common, or it's definitely not abundant enough to use as a value. So the next best option here would be the Conqueror's rare weapon. Okay, so finally I want to talk about the next column, and hopefully this is the last one that I need to discuss. Things should start becoming clear how this spreadsheet is laid out. And the column K through N, we look at taking the Erenor weapon from Arcane to Heroic. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to scan the total gold cost for each one of these weapons type. First I'm going to look at the Artificer's Arcane weapon, and we're going to look at the Conqueror's Arcane weapon, the Illustrious Arcane weapon, and then the Mag Arcane weapon, and so on and so on and so on. So it looks like in this case it was just best to start feeding it Illustrious Arcane weapons. It looks like it's the lowest gold cost of like 0.89 gold per experience point. So that's going to give us a total cost to upgrade from this tier, which is Arcane to Heroic, of about 7k gold. And this is using the North American legacy numbers. Okay, so you can move through the columns just like I did here. And what we're doing is we're looking for the lowest gold cost field. And then it would be safe to assume that that particular weapon grade is the one that makes the most economical sense to use to upgrade your Erenor at that tier. I have actually extended all this data all the way from Grand to Epic. So I encourage you to download this spreadsheet and use it personally. Now there's one last thing that I want to talk about with the Erenor weapons. That is, at what level is your Erenor weapon going to be better than your current weapon? And if you feel like it, you can use this data here in the spreadsheet to find out how much that would cost you to overtake your current weapon with an Erenor weapon. So, for example, I'm going to use my weapon that I have in North America Aonor server. I currently have a tier 6 obsidian scepter, as you can see here. Now, I'm gonna leave all these other tabs that omnomio has compiled, and you'll be able to look through that to kind of figure out where your current weapon fits on the best of weapons list. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on, I'm a mage, so I'm going to click on the scepters, clubs tab, and now we can see all the weapons listed here. And it also has like the temper values, the max tempers, 115%. And as you notice that I use a tier 6 epic scepter. However, that is not listed here. But I can actually just really quickly figure out where it would fall on this list. And to do that, all I have to do is compare the values of my scepter to the ones that are actually here. So looking here in game, my club or my scepter, I don't know why I typed club. My scepter, as we see here, has a magic attack of 657%, but it actually has 113% temper. So what I want to actually do is bring that temper off of it so we can compare the base to the base. There's actually two ways to do that. First is math. We can determine 113% of X equals 657, or the easiest way to do it is just use the in-game encyclopedia, which you can bring up by pressing Shift plus I. And then all we have to do is select the one-hand weapon, scroll down to the tier 6, and then look at the stats. So here we have the epic tier 6 with no temper. It shows a value of 581%. That sounds about right. This tells me that the weapon, this tells me that my weapon, based on the ones listed here, is about the same as a Aonor Divine, which is number 19 here on the list. And that tells me that my weapon, the epic tier 6 scepter, is about the 18th best weapon I could have for my class. So for me, if I want a better Erenor, oh, crazy video. I have to overcome this number, the 587. Which means I need a heroic Erenor. To find out how much that would cost me to make, I have to look at some of these numbers. So I go back to this other tab here, and I see that the cost to craft an Erenor weapon, then I total up how much it would cost me to progress through all these different grades to finally get to heroic, at which point I would have a better weapon. And so we can do that real quickly. The cost to craft a basic Erenor weapon is going to be about 81,000 gold. Then the cost to go from grand to rare is going to be another 716. And then from rare to arcane, 4,400. And then finally 7,000 gold to go from arcane to heroic, giving me a total of about 93,000 gold if I would like to make an Erenor weapon better than the one I currently have. Then from there, I can continue to pump more items into my Erenor to make it even better. Whoa. So there was a lot to cover here in this video, and this is a really quick how to use the spreadsheet type video. So I look forward to you guys' questions. Please remember to download the spreadsheet. If you find any errors, let me know and I'll correct them. Also, if you feel like this video has helped you in the slightest, please remember to like and subscribe to me here on YouTube. If you would like to support me to continue to make these types of videos, please remember to follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and financially you can support me by following me on Patreon or Twitch during one of my live streams. And this week, we're going to be doing a live stream on Friday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is going to be my typical PTS regrade stream. And this week we'll be giving away the Cyafin Dolphin, which is the new Tryon creator code. I have, 15 of those to give away this month. So join me on my Friday stream. It will start tomorrow again at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until next time, September is saying, be well.